Industrial metal is a genre that quickly became one of my favorites during its heyday in the 90s and early 2000s. But since then, new releases in this style have become few and far between.
It's just gone!
So all the more reason to highlight 10 of these hidden gems that are still doing it justice in 2022. And I figured we'd kick this thing off with easily one of my top picks this year in Author and Punisher with Kruller. Now, if you've still somehow not heard this name before, you're missing out on one of the most innovative industrial metal acts of the modern era. Author and Punisher is the product of soul musician Tristan Schoen, who not only writes all of the music, he fabricates the very machines he uses to create it. The result is something both familiar in its components, but highly unique in its execution, and Tristan only continues to flex his creativity with Kruller. I feel comfortable saying that this is his most melodic work to date. All of the usual aggressive pulsations are now offset by lots of sparkling, shimmering synths, with Depeche Mode and The Cure energy seeping in for an album that sounds almost as massive in its melancholy as the Blade Runner soundtrack. Not to mention that industrialized rendition of Portishead's Glory Box is absolute fire. Next we have Hold Me Down with Powerless. Regular viewer Jordan C. shouted this one out when I was looking for last-minute recommendations, and I'm really glad that he did. This is an absolutely gnarly release with a cold, concrete aesthetic that is absolutely chilling. Driving street cleaner rhythms, reverb-heavy noise, and harrowing blackened snarls. I said this a while back about something else, but if you could tap into the mind of a serial killer using headphones, this is the filth that would end up oozing through your ear canals. The further I get into it, the more I get the sense that I'm spiraling into some bottomless dark abyss on par with Lord Mantis. Probably the most unholy sounding thing on this list. Next up is Trace Amount with Anti-Body Language. This comes to us via Greg Puciato of the Dillinger Escape Plan's label Federal Prisoner, and is a must-listen for fans of Skinny Puppy and industrial noise alike. Along with some of the imposing, suffocating nature of Godflesh's darkest moments, it's like throwing Too Dark Park and Last Rites in a blender with a heaping dose of PCP. This is the New York Project's first full-length, but it's in the wake of notable collaborations with members of Pig Destroyer and the Dillinger Escape Plan, for an absolutely unhinged, violent record that I hesitate to even label as music in some cases. On a somewhat lighter note, we have Lament Cityscape with a darker Discharge. This is a project I've been covering for a few years now, but think of it as a pretty 50-50 fusion of industrial metal with sludge and post-metal. Some of the heavier moments, like the Underdark, are pure Godflesh, while part of the Mother trends more in a ministry direction, and then others like Innocence of Shared Experiences are more drifting, dreamlike soundscapes akin to those found on Nine Inch Nails' The Fragile. There's also a decent amount of variety in terms of pacing, with short blasts of aggression at just around a minute and 30 seconds up to the longest clocking in at over 6 minutes, and all coming together at a very concentrated 25. If you like mixing spellbinding atmosphere with electronics and head-bobbing industrial beats, this is the one for you. Then we have Brace with The Collapse. This album was recommended to me for one of my monthly Bandcamp exploration videos, and goddamn does it hit, especially for another one-man project. And perhaps in part due to the resulting raw DIY qualities, this comes closest to capturing that classic 90s vibe. To the point that if someone told me this was some old demo they found buried in a defunct record store, I'd believe them. Vocals are a mix of Justin Broderick, Burton C. Bell, and Max Cavalera alongside Ministry meets Broken Era 9 Inch Nails riffs. There are things that could be tightened up here and there, but ultimately I think the imperfections add to its charm in an era where so much music is over-polished to the point of losing any edge. Quick shout out here to Rammstein's Zeit. It's barely an industrial metal album in my opinion, but I do think it's their best since Risa Risa, and I'm sure there would have been a bunch of "what about Rammstein" comments if I didn't at least mention it. In any case, there were other albums I felt were more deserving of slots here, but you can check out my extended thoughts on my discography tier list video. But moving along to my next pick, we have Black Magnet with Body Prophecy. Another noisy monster of a record here. Tracks here cover the spectrum from more Manson-esque rages like Last Curse and Violent Mechanics, to more hypnotic, slowly throbbing Godflesh-inspired material like Incubate and certain portions of Floating in Nothing. Justin Broderick even provides a remix of Incubate at the end. Throughout the duration, you'll also likely pick up on notes of everything from Ministry and 9 Inch Nails to Killing Joke and Frontline Assembly. Highly recommended for those who still appreciate the machine-like clank of steel against steel in their heavy music. Then getting a little weird here, we have Valborg with Der Alte. Now, to call Valborg an industrial project would be a painful oversimplification. Also sporting influences from sludge, death, doom, post-punk, and avant-garde, every album is a tumble down the rabbit hole. And with bizarre moments like the howling Hola Hola or post-punky Sehnsucht nach und Endlichkeit, it may be the hardest sell on this list. Variety is the name of the game here, but also some familiar territory in the, again, street cleaner groove of Kommando aus der Zukunft or infectious helmet-like riffs and rhythms of Orecho. Basically expect the unexpected. I'm the type of person who gets tired of hearing the same stuff over and over again, so any chance I get to shine a light on something unique, I take it. Then getting a little silly here, we have KMFDM with Hyena.
On the prowl for skin and bone to tear, I'm a skeleton looking for meat to wear.
KMFDM have always been on the cornier side of the genre, but the amount of fun and creativity that spawns as a result is unmatched. And so that trend continues with the bombastic Hyena, from the foot-tapping beats of the title track to the more Ministry-esque vibes of All For One. This is another outing as wild as the animal it derives its name from.
Laughing all the way through the night, I am Hyena.
And really, those are some of the most straightforward tracks on the record, because you've got the hip-hop meets big band brass of Rock and Roll Monster, the dancey breakbeats of All Wrong But All Right, the Runaways punk rock of Blindface, the Devil Went Down to Georgia vibes of Deluded, Desperate, Dangerous, and Dumb, and the reggae energy of In Dub We Trust, to name just a few. If you want devil may care variety, this is the one you want to check out. Then we have Health with Disco 4 Part 2. Health is a band that's been consistently dropping quality material since the mid-2000s with little attention from the mainstream. They've done everything from standard album releases to the Max Payne 3 and Cyberpunk soundtracks, and they only continue to experiment with sounds on this latest release. Each track complementing the varied styles of the laundry list of guest musicians including Poppy, The Body, Perturbator, 9 Inch Nails, and even Lamb of God. The result is a very interesting compilation of electronic ambience and pulsating beats that range from chill and atmospheric to highly aggressive. It may not flow like a more traditional album, but it ends up really covering the spectrum of what is possible within the genre. Personal favorites here Isn't Everyone, AD 1000, and The Joy of Sex. And then we have an interesting pick in Napalm Death with Resentment is Always Seismic, a final throw of Throes. Now again, this may seem like an odd choice considering that Napalm Death are very much a grindcore band at heart, but they've been getting more and more experimental in their later years, leading to one of their most bizarre releases to date. If you loved A Belly Full of Salt and Spleen on the previous record, you're going to love the churning Resentment Always Simmers and Resentment is Always Seismic, as well as their delightfully demented cover of Slab's People Pie. It's also got straight grinders like Narcissus and even a Bad Brains cover, but what really keeps me coming back to this one are the industrial elements. Easily one of the most unique things you will hear in 2022, period, and I'd love to hear them only lean further into the genre moving forwards. Check out this playlist for more industrial metal videos, including that Rammstein tier list I mentioned, and let me know your favorite industrial metal albums of 2022 down in the comments. But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.